For a short while, a 285-acre uninhabited island in the Palk Straits, located close to the International Maritime Boundary Line of Sri Lanka and India, became a political tool for India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, apparently with his eye on the vote garnering potential of questioning the Katchatheevu Islands ownership that the people of Tamil Nadu often engage in. Modi said it was the Congress party's government that had, in quotes, callously given it away, unquote, to Sri Lanka in the 1970s. Dr. Jaishankar went a step further, saying the ownership question was a live issue. It was diplomatically fraught assertion with serious implications for India's relations with Sri Lanka. However, and quite surprisingly so, Colombo chose to play down the Prime Minister's suddenly upping the ante. In order to understand Sri Lanka's view, Mayank Shah report spoke to Sugiswara Senethira, Media and International Affairs Advisor to his country's Prime Minister, Dinesh Gunawardena. He spoke from Colombo. Welcome to Mayank Shah Reports. Sugiswara, it's a great pleasure to have you.
Wonderful to be here with you.
Does Colombo see Prime Minister Narendra Modi's revival of the question of ownership of Katchatheevu as election season grandstanding or something that might become his priority if he wins?
No, I mean the first one, yes. It is merely for the election, especially although he is very likely to get elected with a thumping majority in the Hindi belt and elsewhere. But in the southern part of the country, he doesn't have a foothold, especially in Tamil Nadu. So to get few Tamil votes, he must have used this issue. Otherwise, there's no other reason. There's perfect understanding between the two countries on all other issues, and we don't see this as a major uh, uh, problem between the two countries.
It's interesting you say that because while Modi, of course, is saying that India callously gave away the island, the Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has called it a live issue, so which is a little more troublesome than Modi's rhetoric, don't you think?
Jaishankar's statement that it's a live issue doesn't make any sense. Of course, being a BJP politician, although foreign secretary and currently foreign minister, he has to follow the line taken by the prime minister at this juncture. Just on the eve of the Tamil Nadu elections, he had to say this thing. But I doubt very much because he must be well aware, because way back even his father, Dr. Subramaniam, was initially involved in the discussions with Sri Lanka with W.T. Jaisingh, the then foreign secretary, and so on. So I'm sure he is well aware of the actual situation. This is not ceding an island to Sri Lanka. You see, it is merely recognition that Katchatheevu lies on the Sri Lankan side of the maritime border. That's all.
Yeah, I understand, but to focus a little bit more on what Dr. Jaishankar has said, it's one thing for a deeply political prime minister to say things like this during an election season, but for a foreign minister to actively call it a live issue, I somehow think that it may not be as easy as Colombo might think it is.
Well, I don't agree with you because uh, we have not uh, uh, received any the protest note or in any request for revival of discussions on this issue. Anything, Colombo has not been informed anything. Only this was election platform speech followed by Subramaniam Jayashankar's press conference. So apart from that, there's no communication whatsoever or official communication to Sri Lanka. So we don't go by press reports. So we merely wait for if there's any. I doubt very much whether there'll be anything. Even otherwise, I don't think this issue will be raised during the remaining part of the election, only the first phase was day before yesterday or yesterday. So now the Tamil Nadu part of it is over. Now the voters have already decided the fate of Tamil Nadu, the 39 seats in the Lok Sabha. So with that, I strongly believe it will end there, unless you see we try to trot on India's foot in some way, antagonizing India. Or you remember way back in 1987, we faced certain issues, and
Right.
that's also due to, I think, partly due to our decision to have closer links with the United States and
Right.
setting up an Israeli intersection here. So, unless something major problem arises since elsewhere, I don't think India will raise this issue again.
It's you make a very important point that you haven't received any official communication at all on this, and that's a significant perspective coming from you. I want to understand, but when it was first raised by the Prime Minister, followed by Jaishankar around April 1st, was Colombo somewhat blindsided, or you may have anticipated something like this?
No, we didn't anticipate because for us it's a dead issue. You see, but however, the Foreign Minister Ali Sabri made a statement following Subramaniam Jayashankar's statement. He said there's nothing to discuss. There's no ceding as far as we know. That it was only the recognition of maritime boundary that Katchatheevu falls on this side. This is an issue which was decided even before the independence. You see, way back in 1921, there was a discussion between the Madras, the then Madras government, and the Ramnath Maharaja, Raja of Ramnath,
Right.
and Sri Lanka, Ceylon colonial authorities then, and it was decided that Katchatheevu belongs to Sri Lankan side of the maritime boundary, and Indian fishermen should not fish in that area. Although the Katchatheevu could be used for the visiting the church or any religious functions or any other. Because even at that time there was no visa system between the two countries. We could go without visa or even without a passport to India. Similarly, the Indians could travel not only to Katchatheevu, any part of Sri Lanka. So that was it. It was officially maritime boundary was decided in the two agreements in 1974 and 1976.
You mentioned the 1920s. Fast forward about 35 years or so when Prime Minister Nehru was in the saddle, and he was also the foreign minister. In fact, he was on record saying that it's not a matter of national prestige, this island. So it was clear from the 50s onward, even if you consider India as an independent country, it was clear from the 1950s that this was not a major problem. And then, as you pointed out, in 74 there was an agreement, and it was extended in 76. So for all practical purposes, this was just a little blip in otherwise an even keel relations between India and Sri Lanka, you think?
This was traced from time and again. Is it though 1921 Maharaja of Ramnath's agreement, subsequently the Jaffna diocese was conducting all the religious ceremony at the Saint Anthony's Church
Right.
set up in Katchatheevu Island. Katchatheevu, as you know, there are no inhabitants there. Only
Right.
the church is there. Annually, there's a function there. For that, Christians from both sides come. But however, there were protests from Sri Lankan or then Ceylon fishermen throughout, that Indians are using the very rich, fish-rich area around Katchatheevu, which is our territory, because 1921 agreement says 7.5 miles. not even kilometers, 7.5 miles west of Katchatheevu is the Sri Lankan maritime boundary, then
Right.
Ceylon. In 74 agreement, it was reduced to 2.3 kilometers. It
Right.
was reduced because on mutual understanding. Furthermore, there's another uh, area very rich in fish were handed over to Indian fishermen in the same maritime agreement, which is north of Katchatheevu.
Right.
The huge area of the Sri Lankans were using those areas, and now Sri Lankan fishermen don't travel to those areas because mutually they understand. But however, Indian fishermen continue to come to the Sri Lankan side of the maritime boundary because Sri Lankan fishermen stopped fishing in those areas for 30 odd years due to the conflict. So
Right.
that was the reason why the Indians continued to use those area for fishing.
Does Colombo see this 280 odd acre rock of any strategic value?
And no, not at all. You see, there's no strategic value at all, and we don't allow not only that island. You see, there are seven other much bigger islands in the north. The Kites, Nagadeep,
Right.
Nainathew, and those islands. Some all of them are inhabited, so we will not allow any of those islands or any territory in Sri Lanka to be used against a third country by any country. So
Right.
especially against India. So there's no question of allowing using Katchatheevu as a strategically important island.
Right. Right. To change gears a bit, Sugi, how do you look at India-Sri Lanka relations? We did talk about they are quite robust. There are no major issues, I suppose, outstanding. Is that an accurate assessment of the reality on the ground?
Yes, no issues whatsoever. We have a perfect understanding, though there are some concerns expressed by India, as you are well aware. You see, recently about allowing Chinese
Right.
research ship to come here, but we understood India's situation, and we decided to have a 2 year moratorium for any research vessel to come to Sri Lankan ports. So, whenever there's some concern, of course, we look into it. And India, of course, the age-old friend, the immediate neighbor, and whenever we have the problems, they come to assist us. As you have seen, last 3 years during COVID time, followed by Sri Lanka's economic crisis, India was the first country to offer debt restructuring. So there's perfect understanding.
To wrap up our conversation, in terms of the relations between at the summit level, the two prime ministers, how would you describe it?
Oh, that's extremely close because it's a family connection to start with.
How
Dinesh
come?
Gunawardana's father, Philip Gunawardana, uh, was a signatory to 1929 Paris Declaration of Socialist Youth. The other signatories included Sri Nehru's emissary, the Krishna Menon was there. Then Chow En Lai was there in Paris as a youth leader. Ho Chi Minh was there. The Colombian leaders, Mexican revolutionary leaders, all of them signed this Paris Declaration. The relationship goes back that far. Then
Right.
1940s, the moment the World War started, the socialist youths in Sri Lanka, Philip, Dr. Nemperra, Colina de Silla, and all the socialists launched a protest movement, and immediately they were arrested and kept in jail. And they escaped from the jail in 1942 and went to India and joined the Indian freedom struggle.
Right.
And Philip Gunawardena, Prime Minister's father, use a pseudonym as Dr. Gopalasamy and address rallies in Mumbai as an Indian against the
I see.
British rule. So all of them were arrested again in India and jailed. And Kusuma Gunawardena, Philip's wife, another revolutionary, the women's lead of the socialist movement of Sri Lanka. So both of them were in jail. And Prime Minister Dinesh's elder brother was born in the. He was named as Indika because he was born in Mumbai jail.
I see. I see.
It's a
Interesting.
significant family connection with
It is
India.
indeed, indeed, indeed.